Hello, hello. Welcome to Admitted, the College Confidential podcast, your spot for talking all things college. My name is Gabby. I'm a student at Case Western Reserve University and a College Confidential ambassador.
And my name is John, and I'm the head of community at College Confidential, and we're your hosts.
Lately, we've been interviewing students about their college admission journey this past year, and today I have with me a parent who is going by Techno. And so feel free to introduce yourself however you feel like, Techno.
Hello, I'm a parent of twins who are graduating from high school this year and have both just finished the college admission process. I also have one older daughter who's a sophomore in college. So we have a lot of recent experience with college admissions, and I've even seen it change a lot in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I'll bet. Twins. Well, so you should know that I also have twins. My twins are a little ways away because they're 10. But yeah, we've got that to look forward to when they when they apply to school. Not very many years. So how's that been raising twins? What do you feel like the whole thing has been like?
Mostly fun. They're really good kids and they get along with each other and with their older sibling. And they're very, very different from each other. I think, and also boy girl. So I think that makes things sometimes easier. Certainly keeps the competition down, which has been useful lately.
I'll bet. Yeah, we've got boy-girl twins, and just this afternoon I was watching them come home, and they were talking to each other. Who knows what they were saying? Who knows what they were thinking? But they're always together. I think that's a nice thing about twins that I think other parents might miss out on. When did you start, or when did you discover College Confidential and start using it?
Oh, probably my older daughter's freshman or sophomore year in high school. So that would be 4 or 5 years now.
Great. And just, if you don't mind me asking, do you remember how you found out about it?
Probably just through a Google search, looking for different topics, the answers to questions. I don't think I was referred by anybody, but it's been a useful resource. Sometimes, stressful and a little exasperating, but definitely useful.
Yeah. Do you know if any of your kids have joined, or I mean, they might not even tell you if they had.
I expressly told them that I did not want them to.
Right.
Because I think it can get a little bit toxic to the actual student, and I didn't want them to. They have enough on their plate and enough to stress out about, so I figure I'd take care of all that part. Nice.
I mean, like, it's something we're well aware of, that this is such a stressful time of year, and for some students it's overwhelming. You've got in addition to all the college search, you've got all your high school senior stuff, and then friendships, and the whole thing is just really, really stressful. It's an incredibly stressful time, and I don't mind at all if parents say, hey, step back from College Confidential. That's too much. Well, let's start talking about the process as a whole, for the twins, and maybe compare it to how it changed. You mentioned it changed. I'm curious about that.
Well, so 2 years ago was very strange. It was kind of the COVID application year when all the test optional was brand new, and it was so chaotic that I think nobody had expectations, because we just didn't know what to expect, and had to apply blind to a lot of schools that we hadn't been able to visit. And so for my twins this year, things seem like they're settling down a little more. Kind of people have wrapped their heads around what the test optional world is going to look like for admissions somewhat. They did get to go on their college trips and have a better understanding of the schools they were actually applying to. So I think it was probably better than 2 years ago.
Sure.
But still definitely stressful, and still a lot of uncertainty in terms of not being able to really guess at the outcomes you're going to get.
Yeah. How many of your children applied test optional?
None of them. Well,
Yeah.
my older daughter applied test optional to one school only, and then otherwise they submitted test scores everywhere else.
Yeah. Was that a difficult decision, or did you kind of just decide you're going to do it no matter what?
For my twins, it was not difficult. They have extremely high test scores. There was absolutely no reason not to submit them. And
Yeah.
my other daughters were pretty high. She only got to do one sitting before COVID. So, it was kind of like, I don't know. But, we're also used to it.
Yeah. So with the twins, did they apply to the same schools or different schools or a mix?
No overlap at all. They visited.
Oh no.
They visited some schools in common, but did not actually apply to any schools in common. So yeah, between them, I think we had 19 applications, which isn't a huge number for 2 kids these days, I guess, but it seemed like a lot.
Yeah. It seems like a lot to me, but I have talked to kids who have applied to 20 or 30 on their own, like just once.
So we didn't have any, like at the UCs, for example, one application gets you an application to 9 schools. We didn't do any schools like that. So every single one of those was a separate application, not a separate application because of the Common App, but a separate set of essays.
Now, you also would have had to juggle like, all the different deadlines and all the different requirements for all these schools. Did you do that work, or was it? Did you give most of that to your twins, or how did you manage that?
Initially, I set up spreadsheets on a shared Google Drive that they have access to that tracked, the schools we were looking at and different important stats and costs and things. And I think my daughter was probably more engaged in that process than my son, but we'd all sit down together and, go through the down select or the strategy and stuff like that. But I kind of drove the spreadsheets, and I really wanted them to focus on, their academics in school and their extracurriculars, and then making the decisions for sure where to actually apply. The decisions were all theirs.
Yeah, for sure. How did you come up with an initial list of schools?
Well, we'd been through this once, so we kind of had an idea of, what we were doing. My husband and I are both college graduates. Everyone in our family is college graduates. So we know a lot about different kinds of schools. My niece and nephew are about 10 years older than my kids, so had watched them go through it 10 years ago. But each of the kids got to look at different kinds of schools and kind of see how they felt about big versus small, private versus public. And then we went out from there, did a lot of research online. One thing nice about COVID is that the schools started putting a lot more better tours and information and virtual sessions together. So you don't have to travel everywhere, everywhere.
Yeah.
So,
and most of that stuff is still available. I'm sure they didn't bother to.
Yeah. No, it's been good because with 2 kids, you can't visit everywhere. There's just no way. I mean, they were applying all over the country. So we did what we could, but we relied on some virtual sessions where we had to. But I guess the first list of schools stemmed from what they were interested in, and kind of starting at the top and building your way down until you kind of get to the point where you feel like, here's a couple of schools that fit the bill, and you got a good chance of getting into those.
Yeah. Did they have different? I mean, since they came up with different lists, I assume that they must have had different values or priorities for what they were looking for.
Wildly different. My daughter wants to major in an area it's pretty specialized. So finding the right program was her top priority because not all schools have it.
Sure.
And then for my son, his major is, you can kind of get the same basic curriculum anywhere. So he was really more looking for, I guess, social fit, location, having just a really different experience from high school.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a ton of sense. well, let's see. Do you are interested in letting us know which schools were on their list, or would you like to keep that private for now?
I can. I wish I had it in front of me because, once the decisions were in, I like clean my brain of this stuff.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
I think I might have even.
Maybe a sampling then.
I think I even trashed my spreadsheets. Just wanted to be done with it.
Yeah.
My daughter only applied to 7 schools. She applied to to University of Michigan, Emory, Northwestern, where she will be attending in the fall, and then Syracuse, University of Wisconsin, Wesleyan, and University of Colorado. I think I got them all.
Wow. Okay. So those are like spread out all over the country, except kind of maybe Midwest to East bias.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So that's got to be because of the program. I mean,
yes,
like
it was all about the
that's a
program.
huge, yeah. And then what about for your son? What sort of schools was he applying to?
So he applied to 10 top 20 universities and liberal arts colleges, and 2, I won't call them safety schools anymore, there's barely such thing, but one out-of-state public flagship and another private school that another liberal arts college actually that he liked a lot and had a good shot at. So he was really going for the kind of the prestige schools, a mix of small universities and liberal arts colleges.
Okay.
He is going to be attending Hamilton College.
Oh, very good. And the schools that they picked in the end. Well, actually, before we get to that, how many did they get into? Was it a pretty high percentage?
So my daughter was accepted to 5 and waitlisted at 2, no rejections.
Oh, that's pretty good then.
That's pretty good. And my son was, I don't remember, he was accepted at 3, and the rest were probably a half and half mix of rejections and waitlists, which,
Yeah.
in retrospect is not really shocking from a list of all top 20 schools, but it was rough.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like 6 in a day, that's rough.
Oh no, that's a really bad day. How did you handle that? Was it a lot of sobbing and comforting?
He's not one to sob or want to be comforted. So we have some food he likes and just move on. Fortunately, it was really fortunate that he got a really nice offer very, very early on from an early action school. So it's, that's one of my biggest pieces of advice to any parent facing this is to find a school with early action that your kid's going to love and get into, and then you've got that in your back pocket, and anything else that happens is like, oh well, you're happy and you're not waiting for that, you've already got it.
Yeah.
So that was a big help.
So for people who don't know, can you explain the difference between early action, early decision, and then regular decision?
Yeah, so early action is you apply early, you find out early, the dates vary, and it's non-binding, you don't have to go, you just find out early. Some schools seem to offer early action only if you want to apply for merit scholarships.
Oh.
And, early decision is basically the same thing, but it is binding, so you can only apply to 1, and if you get in, you've committed to attending. And there's early decision 2, which we didn't do.
Yeah.
And regular decision is also different dates, usually early January, and you find out sometime in March.
Yeah, so that early action seems like a really beneficial because you don't have to commit. But on the other hand, you get a chance to have a school in your back pocket even before you get the rejections. That 6 days of rejections 6 rejections a day must have been a lot easier knowing, well, I can still land somewhere else. Yeah,
so I think that's really helpful. Though my daughter also did an early action school, and 2 of them, and the one she preferred, she did not get into. So,
Hmm.
there's always that too.
That's true. None of this is guaranteed, it turns out. It's all
Well, no, I think
it's
that's
all
really the hard thing is I guess, it hasn't been that long since there were kind of guarantees, or at least you felt like there were, like, if your kid is performing at a certain level and academically and otherwise, that there are certain schools you can count on. And I think that is largely non-existent these days, not completely, but when you kind of get out of the top 50, top 100, I mean, you have to get out of the top 100, I think, to be in that place maybe now, to where you can comfortably count on an acceptance. And that chaos is what's causing students to apply to 20 or 30 schools.
right, exactly. If you don't know and you are just throwing darts, like even if you don't care so much about a particular school, well, you gotta have at least one hit.
Yeah,
If you don't end up in one place, then that's really discouraging, and it changes your career path or your future.
yeah. So I think that's my biggest kind of, I don't know, concern for the future of people that are going to be going through this. I'm done. Um, but, is that the chaos there seems to be more and more of it every year. And, how do, are kids going to be applying to 50 schools when your twins apply? I hope not. I just feel like something's got to change.
Yeah. It's funny because my son applied my son graduated high school in the COVID year as well, and he decided he just wasn't even going to bother applying to colleges, and he went to a community college in the area because literally he was going to get Zoom calls most of the time away, and he ended up loving it. So it's interesting that there's the community, and of course community college is not selective at all. All you have to do is um, have a high school diploma and pay the nominal fee. So he actually enjoyed that, and then he was able to transfer this year. So yeah, I mean, I do think the traditional, like, applying for 4 years and going through all of that, and since it just doesn't seem like there are any guarantees, it's a whole different level of chaos and confusion. And I don't think COVID helped at all, obviously.
No, no, and you want to you've been telling your kids K through 12 to reach high, to aim high, to have high standards for themselves. And,
Yeah,
and then you can't really turn around and say, oh, except for college, you need to not have high standards for yourself. So it's really, I think what's high is changing, but it's changing so fast that I think kids have a hard time, and parents have an even harder time adjusting their mindset to that.
yeah, absolutely. So when they got down to the schools that they that they'd been accepted to, how did they go about making the decision for which one they would accept?
Um, it was really a no-brainer for both of them. Um, uh, my son, like I said, he had 10 top 20 schools. He wanted to go to one of them. And he
Hmm.
got into exactly one of them and two other schools. So that was not a hard decision for him. He did walk away from scholarships at the merit scholarships at the other two, and we were okay with it. And then my daughter, had she gotten into a University of Michigan, which had all along been her top choice, she would have had a really tough decision between that and Northwestern, but she was waitlisted at Michigan. And so again, it wasn't really a difficult decision. She also walked away from some merit scholarships, and that's what happens. If you want to go to Northwestern, you're not getting merit scholarships.
Yeah. Did you manage to visit those schools in person before the decision, or was that online?
We visited both of those before they applied, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, they had applied to my son applied to several schools blind, but he had been on the Hamilton campus, and we had also done some virtual events.
Was that like flying out, or was it part of a bigger like road trip or something? How do you go about doing visits?
We went on an epic East Coast school tour last summer, like 2 weeks of, a school a day kind of kind of thing. Because a lot of the
Yeah,
schools were concentrated out there, so we picked almost we hit up most of those.
that makes that would be a fun trip, I would imagine.
It was
Lots of exciting
exhausting,
places.
but, but it was at least things are close together out there, so it wasn't too much driving.
So at the end of all, well, I mean, you've wrapped up the actual decision. You said you've trashed your spreadsheet and your mind is emptied of all of it.
Yep.
How do you feel about the outcome? How did it all work out in your opinion?
I think the outcome is great. I think, especially now that they're doing their housing forms and meeting people online, like it's going to be great. They're going to have great academic experiences and great social experiences. Good fit schools for both of them. The process was rough. I mean, I'm glad I don't have to do it again.
Yeah.
I'm glad they don't have to do it again. So I'm glad we got good outcomes. I certainly, we have obviously lots of friends with kids their age and a year older and younger. And, there's been a big mix of what the outcomes have been like this year for very, very similar students. And it's not really explainable or fair. So I don't know. I'm glad mine are through it and happy.
Yeah, there is sort of that fairness aspect, which is a little bit odd. And you mentioned some of the chaos that was coming because of COVID and maybe from test optional and yeah, it just is a lot. So if you don't mind me asking, how are you feeling about the financing of two kids at the same time?
3 actually. Yeah, we got 3
Yeah, that's
kids
true.
in private college. It's fine. It's something we had planned for actually before our oldest was even born. We started saving money for college for our children because it was an important priority for us. We've had some family members contribute as well. So, it's something like, if they had gotten into and wanted to go to a school with a great merit scholarship or somewhere less expensive, that would be obviously wonderful. But that's not how it turned out, and so we're prepared to foot the bill.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad because I can't imagine adding financial worries to the mix of what's already such such a chaotic and non-deterministic process.
Yeah. So did you use like a 529 plan to save?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I really recommend those. They're nice because of the tax benefits.
Yeah, we didn't know for years if they were overfunded or underfunded, and it turns out that they're, slightly underfunded, but that's not enough to worry about. So
yeah.
Okay.
Do you think there's going to be loans for them, or is it
No.
going to be?
No, we are fully paying for it.
Yeah.
And then grad
Oh, that's
school.
great.
Grad school is on them.
Oh, that's probably a good idea because once you get your bachelor's degree, it's easier to plan your future and decide. I'd like to work for a few years before graduate school or whatever.
Yeah, they have worked through high school and will probably work through college part-time, and so they have their own personal expenses to pay, but tuition, room and board, that's on us.
Great. Well, I mean, it sounds like they have a very very thoughtful parents, and you did a great job of steering them through this complicated process. Is there anything else you'd want to share with listeners or parents who are just getting started with their kids are going into their senior year?
I think my one thing I would say is don't wait. Like, definitely start looking and having the conversations and educating not just your your kids, but yourselves about what's really feasible and possible. And don't rely on what you thought you knew from when you were in college, because it's changed a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
Start their freshman year. And I think the other thing that I see is a lot of parents don't want to discuss the financial aspects with their kids. And then there's a lot of unhappy surprises at the end. And that's just something have open and frank discussions with your kids about the financial options that are available to them.
Yeah, if you're a parent who hasn't saved up as you have, then maybe you need to, count the cost before they even apply, because there's some places where it'd be really discouraging if you got in, but then you realized, oh, there's no way I can afford to pay it.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people think there's merit scholarships out there that simply don't exist, and may even have unrealistic expectations for financial aid. So there's all those calculators online. I don't know how accurate they are, but you can't just assume. You should go do your homework on that.
Exactly. All right. Well, I had a wonderful conversation. I hope you did too. And if there's nothing else, I guess we'll just say goodbye and talk
Okay.
next time.
Great talking to you. Thank you.
As always, I want to thank our guests for appearing on Admitted, and remind you that if you want to find out more about the college admissions process, to go to collegeconfidential.com, where we have forums with lots of people who are excited to talk with you about everything college related. You could perhaps start your own Chance Me or Match Me thread, and maybe you'll find out about a school that you hadn't considered before.